breaking news which is coming in. Well, the European Union chair has confirmed that there has been a consensus reached in G20 today on accepting African Union as a member of this. In fact, let me go across to Rishabh, who's joining us with all the details. This is an exciting phase because India has been pushing for this inclusivity. If today it can be officially announced, what are you picking up?
Well, definitely this is a big news coming in, and in a push for a global South voices and inclusive G20, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had written to all the member countries that African Union should be given a full-time membership at G20. And now what we are learning that after the Sherpa meeting, the negotiations on this reached a conclusion, and all the member states have agreed to include African Union as a full-time member of G20. This is a big push, and you can say as a global South inclusion in G20. African Union for long have been trying to get a full-time membership like European Union, but it was Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi who wrote under his presidency to the world that African Union's demand is just and they should definitely be part of G20.
Absolutely.
And now what we are learning that all the formalities for inclusion of African Union in G20 is now done, and
That's
after the summit.
Fantastic news coming in ahead of the G20, a more inclusive G20 summit that we can now look forward to. In fact, Chirayu Thakkar is joining us, a foreign policy expert. Mr. Thakkar, your first thoughts. India has been pushing and now is being projected rather as the leader of the global South. This is just one step that it has managed to take towards this inclusive world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that India foresees.
Yes, this has been a very welcome step. Look, G20 from its very inception had a very Eurocentric lens. It had been exclusive in some senses, if you can include European Union as a major economy. And there you don't look at individual countries' performance, but you look at the collectivity of 27 countries. Then in that way, African Union as a collectivity is also a heavyweight. Why would you select European Union as a collectivity and ignore African Union the same way, which is also a very similar bloc? So it has had, since its very inception, a very Eurocentric lens. And if you want to tackle the world's challenges, and look, that was a very different era when G20 started. The primary concern was macroeconomic in nature, but today G20 is a very different forum. You're talking about climate, you're talking about agriculture, you're talking about terrorism, financing, etc. So anything and everything that requires global cooperation is now a part of the G20 agenda. And with this kind of broad agenda, you can't ignore a vast part of humanity, that is African Union. So I think this was a long overdue step, and all the credit goes to India because it has been consistently pushing it. There have been murmurs for all the while, but nobody has put the real effort to make this work. And this is happening under India's presidency, and it will garner immense goodwill in Africa.
Well, absolutely. The Prime Minister himself has already visited there earlier as well for BRICS. And now you have this culmination of African Union joining the G20 means a more inclusive bloc that India has happened under India's presidency, something that the world has certainly going to be taking note of. Thank you so much, Mr. Thakkar, for putting that into perspective. We're going to be